Now, as we begin a time of meditation, the most important thing is that you are comfortable. I invite you to settle into your seats. If you choose to uncross your legs and put your feet flat, that might work for you. You might want to lay your hands in your lap or to put them over your heart. You might want to close your eyes or soften your gaze, whatever is comfortable for you in this moment. But then there's this. I invite you to take a deep breath in and let it out. A breath in. A breath out. And now we're going to focus on the Jewish prayer that we sang earlier with the title of Could Song Fill Our Mouth? But the Hebrew title is translated as The Breath of Every Living Thing. The breath of every living thing. So breathe. Breathe in slowly and breathe in and out, refreshing and renewing the life within us. In this prayer from the Talmud, the word nishmat, combining form of nishma, means breath. Begins the prayer, and it's related to the word neshama, which means soul, suggesting that the soul is part of the breath of all life. So the invitation continues to be, let your breath go in and out. Fill your soul with life, breathing in and out. Think of the lasting love that is your precious blessing. If you're like me, there are lots of thoughts going through your mind as you breathe. Some of them are simply distracting, others are despairing. Let them go like clouds. Slowly move across the sky. Like clouds, you cannot push them away, just let them float away. Fill your soul with life. Breathe in and breathe out. A lasting love. Fill your soul with life in and out. precious blessing. And now let's just be quiet for 3 to 4 minutes of breathing, letting go, and filling your soul with life. Fill your soul with life, in and out. And now hear this prayer, this poem, this song again, as we sang it earlier, as we prepare to gather ourselves back as one. Listen to these words. Could song fill our mouth as water fills the sea, and could joy flood our tongue like countless waves? Could our lips utter praise as limitless as sky? And could our eyes match the splendor of the sun? Could we soar with arms like an eagle's wings and run with gentle grace as the swiftest deer? Never, never could we fully state our gratitude for 1/10,000th of the lasting love that is your precious blessing, dearest God. And now, returning to this space, our souls are filled with life. May it be so. I first saw this building in December of 2021. I was walking through my neighborhood. I live about half a mile down the road. I was walking through my new neighborhood, and I noticed this building, and I especially noticed the Moravian stars that were in your windows. I went home, and I looked you up, and then I showed up here the next Sunday. This retired, after 38 years, United Methodist clergy person. I was looking for a connection, a place to belong. Moving to a new state, a new city where I hardly knew anyone. After a recent divorce, I needed a place to call home, and I needed to know people who cared. Reverend Brigid was the first person who reached out to me, which shouldn't surprise you. And then there were many of you who have become friends along the way. Some of you over there, the third row back, halfway over where I usually sit, aren't we creatures of habit? Some of you had to move this morning just to stay cool, so, it can happen. I'm thankful for those of you who have met in the occasional spirit group, while cleaning the church kitchen, while pulling weeds along the sidewalk out front. Where are you, Mary Ann? Okay. While talking about and seeking to do social justice. I've connected with you at the church retreat. I've survived with you 95-degree heat during a yard sale raising money for a well in Africa. And I've connected with many of you over food, chatting, getting to know one another. So I'm really grateful for those Moravian stars, which are hanging still. You notice it's not Christmas, it's not December anymore. They're hanging still. They bring me joy because they brought me to you. And I'm grateful to be here today with Reverend Brigid's blessing as she continues her sabbatical with Reverend Rogers' partnership in planning this worship service, leading the service, along with our musicians and my special dulcimer friend, Susan Trump. So here we go. Jack Cornfield tells his grandfather's story. And it goes like this. It was the 1930s, and his grandfather said, "We had a tree to decorate that year on Christmas, but we had no presents underneath it. Like Dad said, we couldn't afford them. So we children went to bed in pretty low spirits. But in the morning, when we woke up, there it was. It was a mound, a pile of Christmas presents under the tree. We could hardly wait until after breakfast to start opening them. Mother went first. Hers was an old shawl that she had misplaced but was now stitched up. Father got an old axe with a repaired handle. My sister got her old slippers. My brother got a new washed and patched pair of jeans. I got a hat, the same old hat I thought I had lost in November. It was all a total surprise. We were laughing so hard we could hardly unwrap the next present. Where had it all come from? Jack's grandfather continued the story. It was my oldest brother, Morris. For months, he had been secretly hiding away old things he knew we wouldn't miss. And then on Christmas Eve, he quietly wrapped up the presents and set them under the tree. And we remember this as the finest Christmas we ever had. Gratitude and joy wrapped up together. Dr. Brené Brown, a well-known sociologist and author, reported her findings after 12 years of interview research. Do you know Brené Brown? Okay. She analyzed 11,000 pieces of data. Every person she interviewed who described their lives as joyful, actively practiced gratitude. And somehow we are not surprised, are we, about this? Maybe this happened to you on Friday, July the 4th, when you looked at the produce guy at Market 32 as he helped you pick out the perfect watermelon because you asked him to, or the clerk at the Stewart's who was helping you sweetly. And you said to them genuinely, "Thank you for working today on this holiday." And they looked at you with a growing smile on their faces and said, "Well, thank you. Thank you for shopping today." And then you smiled at the connection you had just made and how it felt like such a right thing to do. Gratitude and joy wrapped up together. And maybe there was that morning recently when you woke up worrying about the day, imagining the worst things that were yet to happen. Anybody do that? Which had not yet happened, but you were ready to worry about them. And then you thought of these words and you said them quietly to yourself. This is the day that love has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And how in that moment despair started to be inched out by joy. Gratitude and joy wrapped up together. Such a nice package. So no, we are not surprised at what research proves about gratitude and joy. We have felt it for a long time. I have chosen this morning 2 ancient texts from the Christian tradition to illustrate this dynamic. They're from the New Testament, the part of the Bible which contains the stories about Jesus and the movement which formed after his death and resurrection. The first text is from a man named Paul, who preached and taught about Jesus all over the Mediterranean region. He organized communities of faith, people who tried to live out then the teachings of Jesus. On one of those journeys of Paul, around probably 50 AD, he visited the town of Philippi. It's a Roman colony, but located in Greece. It might have been about 10 years later, maybe 60, 62 AD, when Paul wrote this letter, which we now call Paul's letter to the Philippians. It's been described as Paul's joyful letter. And in it are the intertwined themes of joy and gratitude. Paul writes to his friends in Philippi, chapter 1, verse 3. I thank my God every time I remember you, constantly praying with what? Guess what it is? Joy. In every one of my prayers for all of you. And then writing later, he said, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. So spiritual friendship between Paul and this Philippi community, and a power greater than themselves, these were at the heart of this space that was created in this relationship between Paul and the Christians in Philippi. And it made this space a growing place for gratitude and joy. But you need to know that Paul was probably writing this letter from house arrest in Rome. Prison would eventually follow, as well as death. From being entangled in the control of the Roman Empire and the narcissistic, all-powerful Emperor Nero. Often persecuted and treated like a criminal, Paul must have had some very bad days. We're having some bad days. Your bad days might be wrapped up in your personal circumstances, in your own life or in your family, at work. But maybe you're feeling like many of us, collective bad days as people who care about the direction of our country, especially as we tried to put on a happy face on July the 4th. How are you doing? How are you doing living out your gratitude and experiencing joy? One day, Brene Brown looked at the white twinkle lights of lights, but they don't twinkle. You could make them twinkle? Okay. Maybe later. Maybe later. But she looked at the twinkle lights in her living room, and she wrote in her journal, "Twinkle lights are the perfect metaphor for joy. Joy is not a constant. It comes to us in moments, often ordinary moments. Other times, we are so afraid of the dark that we don't dare let ourselves enjoy the light." In Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, she talks about this thing which happens to some of us, which we feel when we're in the dark. It's the fear, it's the despair that we never talk about. And it perhaps looks like this for you. Have you ever looked at your children or your grandchildren or another family member sleeping, and just as you're beginning to feel deep joy and gratitude, you find yourself picturing something terrible happening to them? Maybe you never have, but if you have, you know what I mean. You're not the only one to experience this. Or another scenario is when you're thinking about your loved one arriving home from a long trip, and then suddenly you imagine a tragedy keeping them from you. In an interview with Oprah Winfrey, Brown calls this trying to dress rehearse tragedy. To beat vulnerability to the punch. We can be overcome by our natural vulnerabilities and fears, letting them override our experience of deep joy and gratitude. And when this happens, Brene recommends interrupting this process and saying out loud, "I'm feeling vulnerable. That's okay. I'm thankful for my child. I'm thankful for my loved one." It's the journey that is part of our everyday life, where some days there's more darkness than others, from which we can step into the intertwined emotions, one leading to another, joy and gratitude, gratitude and joy together, and step by step, leading us to wholeness and health. There's a story about this in another part of the New Testament called the Gospel of Luke. It's one of 4 Gospels, all of which have a little bit different perspective on the life and teachings of Jesus. But in the Gospel of Luke, this story places Jesus near the border between Samaria, which is along the coast, and Galilee, which is further in. The border between these 2 regions marked the place where the Samaritans lived, who were considered foreigners, undesirables, to be avoided at all cost. And Galilee, the home territory of Jesus and his disciples. We know about borders, don't we? So it shouldn't surprise us that even then the border could be a meeting place between Jesus and lepers. The word leper is probably, in this text, a catch-all for anyone who had a dreaded disease not just Hansen's disease, which is the way we know leprosy today. Lepers were considered contagious and unclean, perhaps disfigured, isolated in every way from other people, socially, religiously. So let me just read to you what happened. You ready? Okay. It happened that as Jesus made, by the way, this is from The Message, which is a contemporary rendition of the Greek in this place by a man named Eugene Peterson. It happened that as Jesus made his way toward Jerusalem, he crossed over the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered a village, 10 men, all lepers, met him. They kept their distance, but raised their voices, calling out, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." Taking a good look at them, he said, "Go show yourselves to the priests." They went, and while still on their way, became clean. One of them, when he realized that he was healed, turned around and came back, shouting his gratitude, glorifying God. He kneeled at Jesus' feet, so grateful. He couldn't thank him enough. And he was a Samaritan. Jesus said, "Were not 10 healed? Where are the 9? Can none be found to come back and give glory to God except this outcast?" And then he said to him, "Get up, on your way. Your faith has healed and saved you." Your faith has healed and saved you. It was the outsider, of course, who chose joy by being grateful. And Jesus was always connecting with outsiders, and they with him. The story ends with Jesus saying 2 very interesting things. First, where are the other 9? Where are they? And to the Samaritan, your faith has made you well. Whole, healed. So here's the crux of the matter. We are all in this story one way or another. Are we first among the 9 who must have experienced joy when they started feeling like they were becoming whole, healed, but that didn't translate into any outward sign of thankfulness? Are we one of those, or are we like the one who came back to say thank you, making a spectacle of ourselves? We are so filled with stupendous joy. Are we the one? And then this question, do we realize that we have a role to play in our own healing, in finding goodness and joy in life? I know that here at Unity, we think about that a lot, the role that we play in bringing our own healing. Jesus said, "Your faith has healed and saved you." We are co-participants in the process of healing and wholeness. It's up to us, even in the darkest time, to look for that tiny spot of light, that little spark of joy, that one thing that we can be thankful for, and speak it. Maybe even shout it. Maybe even laugh it. Maybe even share it. Well, you might say, I can't just choose joy. I'm in fact down in the depths of despair at this moment. But maybe you're right. Maybe instead you could think of it this way. Maybe you could choose or practice gratitude first. which leads to joy. Gratitude can be learned. Gratitude can be taught. What is it we say to our children? Say please and thank you. It's more than just a lesson in politeness. It's a way of life. It's part of who we can become. And so I invite you to start here. Write a thank you note to someone and sign your name. That means it has to be paper and pencil or pen. What kind of joy did my 3-year-old granddaughter, June, feel when she signed her name to a birthday thank you note? And it was with a backwards J and an upside down U and an unnecessary S. And I'm not sure how deeply a 3-year-old feels joy at a thank you note writing, but it brought me joy when I opened it in the mail and I realized that she was being taught the practice of thankfulness. She turned 10 last month, and I just want to show you the birthday card she sent me, the thank you note. She knows how to spell her name now. She loves to write it in cursive. And I just love to think about the gratitude and joy that we have between the two of us. So she's filled in every space of the card with a message of love and gratitude. So that might be something you could do. Write a thank you note, sign your name. But what else? Keep a gratitude journal or a calendar where you can write down one thing every day that you're thankful for. Start slow. There was an article in the Times-Union a few weeks ago. I cut it out because I knew I was going to talk to you about this. That referenced a woman named Allison Jones who suggests this. Before getting out of bed, name 3 things you're grateful for. Little things, big things, different things every day. And she also said, find a gratitude buddy, somebody who you can, communicate with and say, here's what I'm thankful for today. What about you? Try this. At mealtime, think of one thing you're thankful for. If you're in a table with other people, go around the circle and say, what are you thankful for today? And then thank out loud the people who serve you each day, the clerk, the bank teller, the trash collector. I'm not saying you go out at 4:30, but if your trash gets picked up at a decent hour, plant yourself by your trash cans, just pulling weeds or something. And when they come, say to the trash collector, thank you so much for doing this, for collecting my garbage. Thank you. Write a letter of gratitude to a teacher, a coach, an old friend, a mentor, a former pastor, or your current pastors who may be very surprised to hear from you. Will be filled with joy at your letter or your email. So this is how we're going to close. Steve Garnaas-Holmes, who is a spiritual leader who lives in Maine, he happens to be a retired United Methodist pastor as well, writes a poem 5 days out of 7 every week. And he posts it on his blog called Unfolding Light. And I get an email. The last week, this poem popped into my inbox, and I want to share it with you. It's called Before You Despair, and it will be read by Steve himself. So quiet your heart and yourself and listen.
Before you despair. Before you despair, give thanks for the miracle that you are here, that your flesh has sustained you, for all those who have loved you, even poorly, along the way, mostly unnoticed, for all those who do not despair and the grace sustaining them, for the people who were the words of the teacher written for you, and those who were merely the blackboard, For all the beauty in the world, every bit, not just the sunset, but the earth, the sun, the eyes. For your own forgiveness, it's a fact. Don't argue. Write it down. For all those little moments that showed what you were hoping for, the unexpected gift, the healing of a wound, the little wren that came close, the child's laughter that once broke the balloon of your sorrow. For Emily Dickinson and the color green and thumbnails, and that whales sing, give thanks for each one. Don't leave any out, list them all. Perhaps your despair will forget what it wanted to say. But if it remembers, give thanks for the grace to despair and carry on.
If you're like me, you didn't catch all that the first time through, so we're going to listen to it one more time.
Before you despair. Before you despair, give thanks for the miracle that you are here, that your flesh has sustained you. For all those who have loved you, even poorly, along the way, mostly unnoticed. For all those who do not despair and the grace sustaining them. For the people who were the words of the teacher written for you, and those who were merely the blackboard. For all the beauty in the world, every bit, not just the sunset, but the earth, the sun, the eyes. For your own forgiveness, it's a fact. Don't argue. Write it down. For all those little moments that showed what you were hoping for, the unexpected gift, the healing of a wound, the little wren that came close, the child's laughter that once broke the balloon of your sorrow. For Emily Dickinson and the color green and thumbnails, and that whales sing, give thanks for each one. Don't leave any out, list them all. Perhaps your despair will forget what it wanted to say. But if it remembers, give thanks for the grace to despair and carry on.
This week, we will carry on. We will practice gratitude, and we will choose joy. May it be so.